I'd like to call the meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Well, good evening and welcome to the, I guess it's the July regular meeting of the Greencastle School Board. First item on the agenda tonight is adjustments to the agenda.
Yep. So we have one item this month, and it is going to be item 9F, and it is a $3,000 grant that we received from the Putnam County Community Foundation.
Okay. Can I get a motion to adjust the agenda? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is we're going to try a little something different this evening. I've heard from a few different board members that people have made comments to them, hoping or would liking us to move the comments from the audience section to the beginning of the meeting so people can comment on agenda items prior to us voting. That's the way it was done when I was first on the board, and for some reason we moved it to the end. We've just heard some interest in having people having it moved to the beginning, so we'll try that this evening and see how that works and see which one works out best for us. So next item on the agenda is comments from the audience. Okay. Hearing none. Next item on the agenda is organization of the board for the next year. First item is election of officers. Office of the board president is first item. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Thank you. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Next would be the office of the vice president. Okay, we have a motion and a second for vice president. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Next on the agenda is the office of board secretary. Okay, we have a motion and a second for the position of secretary to Dale Pierce. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? All opposed? I suppose I should vote on that too. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Next item is to appoint the school board appointment as legislative liaison to the ISBA, the Indian School Board Association. That is typically the president. It doesn't have to be. Thank you. Well, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Next would be to appoint Corporation Treasurer Kelly Romer, Finance Director. Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Yes. I second what he said. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Next would be to appoint the Deputy Corporation Treasurer, that being Shelley Gardner. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Next on the agenda is to appoint our corporation attorney. That would be Susan Traynor Chastain with Lewis and Kappas. Let's see, and there she is. Excuse me. We'll get right back with you, Susan. Let's go back to E. To appoint the high school ECA treasurer, Ashley Dorsett. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is to appoint our corporation attorney, Susan Traynor Chastain with Lewis and Kappas. Susan is new as our primary attorney this year. We've worked with Susan a lot in the past. Well, I've worked with you for the past 9 years. She's very familiar with our school corporation and its employees and the way we do business, and I think this would be a wonderful fit. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Next on the agenda would be to establish the date, time, and the place of our regular school board meetings. Currently, we are fourth Monday of the month at 7 p.m., typically in the board meeting at central office. We've decided, and that's, I think, where we're going to stay. Well, if someone would make the motion to stay with what we have now. But we kind of decided that until things kind of return to normal, we would probably we'll have every board meeting over here until further notice. Just because, if you look around the room, we all can fit in, safely. So we're just going to plan to have board meetings here until further notice, but that's probably not going to be the regular place of the board meetings. Someone would just make a motion to say, let's maintain the fourth Monday at 7 o'clock at central office. Or if you wanted to make a change. You're right. That's true, right? Okay, I have a motion and a second to maintain our established date of the fourth Monday of the month, 7 p.m. at Central Office Boardroom. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. I guess before we go along too much farther, I should have done this at the beginning. I know I didn't do it last weekend, but I'd love to welcome Mr. Jeff Gibney as our new superintendent. Kind of blew through all that last meeting. Mr. Gibney comes from Bloomfield School District, where he's been superintendent for the past 3 years. Lives a few miles down the road, so he is a member of the community already, and I think we'll continue to see him out and about in restaurants and grocery stores, and we'll welcome you.
Thank
look forward to many years. And I would also like to welcome Mr. Ed Wilson, who's not in attendance tonight. Wasn't able to make it this evening, but he's just been appointed by the Greencastle Township Trustees office, and this is his first meeting of his 4-year term. So I'd like to welcome Mr. Wilson, and we can do that again next month. So next item on the agenda would be the approval of minutes. First would be the regular meeting minutes from June 22nd, 2020. Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the regular meeting minutes from June 22nd, 2020. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Next on the agenda would be the approval of the special meeting minutes from July 15, 2020. Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the special meeting minutes from 2 weeks ago, July 15th. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Next on the agenda is the Finance and Operations report section. That first is an approval request for Personnel Report Part 1. Mr. Gibney.
Yep, so on certified this month, we have a correction to make from a resignation to retirement, and that is for Pamela Bacon as media specialist at Greencastle High School. We have a resignation from Tabitha Briones as math teacher at Greencastle High School. We have several classified resignations. Lori Lamb as attendance secretary, Tina Pitts as instructional assistant at Ridpath, Angela Lee resignation as noon aide at Ridpath, and Jared Bruner resignation as second shift custodian at Greencastle High School. And then also under ECA, Elizabeth Timberman as resignation as 8th grade volley coach at Greencastle Middle School. So definitely would like to thank all of those folks for their time well served serving Greencastle Community Schools. Definitely wish those individuals leaving us permanently, definitely wish them the best. And that is all that we're asking for approval for Personnel Part 1.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve Personnel Report Part 1. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is the approval request for Personnel Report Part 2. Mr. Gibney.
Yep, several certified recommendations as we work to fill up our staff before the start of school. Dawn Batten, hire as 3rd grade special services teacher at TZ. Jessica Briones, hire as director of guidance at Greencastle Middle School. Tanis Nicklash, hire as 8th grade ELA teacher at Greencastle Middle School. Kathleen Chassie, hire as special services teacher at Deer Meadow. This is a title change with no compensation adjustments, but we would, the recommendation is to name Dr. Jenny French as Assistant Superintendent at Greencastle Community Schools. Couple of classified items this month. Approve Kim Rossick as Maintenance Painter, Tony Smith as Maintenance Painter, Sarah Byram, approved transfer as Instructional Assistant at GMS to 8th grade math support at GMS. Melinda Short, transfer as ISS at GMS to attendance secretary at Greencastle Middle School. Several ECA hires this month. First, at Greencastle High School, Mark Hernandez as assistant football coach. Aaron Rowings, assistant varsity cheer coach. Katie Downing, volunteer assistant varsity cheer coach. Michael Scott, volunteer assistant girls golf coach. Dessa Frank, head girls cross country coach. Kyle Schaefer, varsity wrestling coach. Ian Pingleton, Assistant Varsity Wrestling Coach. Colin York, Volunteer Assistant Boys Basketball Coach. Rob York, Volunteer Assistant Boys Basketball Coach. And Maggie Meyer, Volunteer Assistant Volleyball Coach. Next up at Greencastle Middle School, Rob Warman as Head Football Coach. Ben Monnet, Assistant Football Coach. Tanya Welker, Head Boys Cross Country Coach. Joy Pershing, Head Girls Cross Country Coach. Jessica Briones, 8th grade volleyball coach. Jamie Landry, volunteer 7th and 8th grade assistant volleyball coach. Amanda Hernandez, volunteer assistant cheer coach. And then one item of note, a compensation adjustment for CJ Shields to approve training and certification hours. And this would be the additional hours that he spent providing awesome professional development for our teachers on preparing them to use Canvas. I recommend at this time that the board approve Personnel Report Part 2.
Thank you, Mr. Gibney. Can I get a motion to approve Personnel Report Part 2? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is the approval request for the allowance of claims, Mrs. Romer.
Is this on? Oh, it is on.
It is.
Okay, I'm the first to speak. Okay, during the month of June, we had 2 regular payrolls and 2 mini payrolls you will see in your packet. The first regular payroll was dated June 5th with a total payroll of $423,000, $493.74. Along with that payroll came accounts payable for payroll taxes and retirement for a total of $117,995.42. Next in your packet, you're going to see a mini payroll dated June 8th. Total for that payroll was $5,436.50. Along with that mini payroll on June 8th, you'll see in your packet the accounts payable for payroll taxes and retirement, a total accounts payable of $1,674.74. Next in your packet, you'll see a regular payroll dated June 19th for a total payroll of $397,596.25. Along with that regular payroll on June 19th was accounts payable again for retirement and payroll taxes. We were off just a little bit on some perf, so I had to make an adjustment on there. So you'll see an extra line for perf to make that adjustment for a total accounts payable on the June 19th payroll of $117,536.71. Last is a mini payroll dated June 24th for a total payroll of $41,709.32. Along with the mini payroll on June 24th, there were accounts payable, one in the amount for payroll taxes of $6,381.54, and the second would be for, again, for payroll taxes. These would be for the federal taxes. Total of $11,325.64. Did anyone have any questions about the payrolls for June? Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to prepays dated June 1 through June 30th, 2020. There's really nothing out of the ordinary here. Again, you know, our biggest expense on prepays is health insurance, as it is every month. The only additional, larger prepay was for the first payment of Imagine Learning. And you'll see that under like second, third from the bottom. Did anyone have any questions about that first payment for Imagine Learning? Okay. That's the first of 2 payments, yes, and that's noted there in your memo. See that? Okay. Total prepays for June 2020, $413,989.44. Next in your packet, you'll see regular claims dated today, July 27th, 2020. Before I go through and highlight, was there any questions on the claims for this month? I can go ahead and answer some questions for you.
I did not have any, no.
Okay, we'll go ahead and move on. Just wanted to point out a couple of things. During the month of July, it's customary that we have several renewals. We have the online subscriptions for, Canvas, Ingenuity, all those. You'll see all those. That's also renewal time of year for insurance, so you'll probably see some substantial amounts in there for insurance. We have inspections, yearly inspections for the fire marshal. So all those things usually kind of come to a head in July. So the claims are a little bit more this month than what they normally are the rest of the year. Total claims dated today, July 27th, 2020, $446,933.27. And pending any further questions, I submit the payrolls and claims for approval.
Yeah, can I get a motion to approve? No one has any. You have a question? No, okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is the approval request for the financial report. Mrs. Romer.
In your board packet, you should see the fund report ending June 2020. I could point out the ending balance for education fund, $607,823.58. And we'll move down about 2 or 3 lines to operations fund 300 for an ending balance on June 30th of $2,187,964.77. And again, I want to point out that that amount is going to be a little bit higher because taxes came in, property taxes, etc. But also you need to remember too that it supports operations, and we had quite a bit of expenses in July. So next month that amount's going to go down substantially. So if you want to go ahead and go to the last page of the fund report, that should be page 7 for you. You'll see an ending balance in all funds of $8,163,788.91. Next in your board packet, you're going to see a depository statement and bank balances to end June 30th, 2020. On that depository statement, you're going to see all balances for banks, less outstanding checks, for an ending balance of $8,163,788.90. If you compare your depository statement balance and your fund balance, you'll notice they do not match. They're off by 1 cent.
It's going to be a habit.
Once again, I'm going back and forth with 21st Century Grant, and they're showing we have a cent extra, so I need to spend that money. So we're off by 1 cent. But I do submit the fund report and the depository and bank balances for your approval.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve the financial report? Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the financial report. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Mrs. Romer. Next on the agenda is reports, with the first report coming from, I guess we would say, Assistant Superintendent Rich.
presentation he's going to pull up for us as we get started. But tonight I wanted to share with you our virtual learning plan. We're in the current process of developing handbooks for secondary and elementary students. So the information I'm sharing with you tonight comes directly from those handbooks. So as part of our process, we're reconvening our reopening committee of 40 teachers and administrators tomorrow morning. We're gonna give them this information, receive their feedback and input, and then hopefully publish those by tomorrow afternoon. One of the things on the agenda today is for your approval to move the start back 1 week for school. And we are asking for that because we wanna get this information out to families so that they have time to process this information and make an informed decision. And so we're trying to get that out to families as soon as possible. So Corey, if you'll go ahead and put the next slide. So all students, regardless of their grade level, have criteria and expectations that they have to meet. And so one of those criteria are having access to daily high-speed internet. And I know there's an issue of equity and internet access, and we want to provide that for all students, and we're working on different grants and with different communities and able to provide that. But that can mean a lot of different things. And so we've provided outdoor hotspots in our parking lots so that students can come to that location or to our local libraries. We've created partnerships with them. So families can come, and even if they can get there once a day to upload and download information, then they can still choose this opportunity. While that's not ideal, it is an option. So it's not completely off limits for those students. Also, students and parents must participate in an orientation. And this is very crucial because at this time, we're gonna teach both students and parents how to utilize all of the online platforms so that they can be successful, and that platform won't be a barrier to getting to the content. Also, we are asking families when they enroll and select the virtual learning option that they commit to an enrollment period. So for our secondary students, we're asking that they commit to a 1 semester enrollment, and for elementary, a 9 weeks commitment. We are also requiring any state mandated texting or NWEA benchmark assessment testing, that will have to be done on campus just for the validity of the test. That can be scheduled through the virtual teacher or through our school counselor, and that occurs maybe 3 to 5 times a year, but that can be set up so that that student is there and can meet privately or separately if that is a concern. And then finally, the criteria is students and parents both must sign a code of conduct, just committing to honesty in the report and the process and their attendance. So to talk specifically about our elementary program, and this is one that was giving us the most challenges, because as we know, our elementary students are not independent learners. And so to be able to provide support for the student and for the parent, we tried to gather as many resources as possible. So one thing that I think that we can provide at Greencastle that maybe some of our local surrounding communities aren't doing is that we're providing an option that looks and mirrors the school day, so the on-campus traditional school day, where some of the other surrounding communities are using an Edgenuity or an Edmonton platform like we are for our secondary. They're also offering that as an option for their elementary, where we're trying to provide just an exact replica of the on-campus. So they will access all of the same content, all the same curriculum, and as many of the same experiences as elementary students would if they were coming on campus. And there I've just listed the core curriculum that they're using. Also, book clubs monthly, different titles will be sent out, and so the students can participate in virtual book clubs together online. And I'll talk more about that in a minute. Next slide, please. So as far as the delivery option, we're providing both synchronous and asynchronous options. And just to define that more clearly, asynchronous means that it's not happening live. You can download or watch a pre-recorded lesson and watch that on your own time. Where synchronous is happening real time, you're connecting live with your class or with your teacher. So we're providing both of those options so that in the event that there's a childcare issue and a child has to do their learning in the evening, then all those lessons will be recorded so they can still have access to the content. We're also making sure that students have weekly connections with their peers, other virtual students in their grade level, and their virtual teacher. So that can look a lot of different ways, but we want to make sure that they're still having that virtual face-to-face FaceTime, and they're doing progress checks as well as small group instruction or whatever that virtual teacher can do to accommodate any type of live instruction they're going to do. And I know that the last bullet that I have up here is the DOE, the Department of Education of Indiana, requires that all elementary students stay engaged in educational activities for 5 hours. And so some of us interpret that as, oh my goodness, students have to be online for 5 hours. That's impossible. You're right, that is impossible. So that's not what we're asking. That's not what they're requiring. So Corey, if you'll go to the next slide. I've developed just a sample schedule of what a day might look like. So it's definitely a hybrid. So part of their day will be online, accessing the information, getting the mini lesson, checking in with their teacher, but then that will move to an offline. So they might do reading, writing, cursive practice, math fact practice, journaling, science projects, so different things. So it's not going to be completely online screen time for that 5 hours. So just to clarify that. Next slide. I also wanted just to share with you, and this again will be in our handbook that we're publishing, just so that parents are familiar with the type of tools that we have to offer. And so here are the main tools that we're going to be offering our platforms. And so this is why it's really essential that both students and parents participate in that orientation, so that they can learn how to utilize all of these, because it will be crucial once their content comes and they're ready to start learning. So the middle school option will be utilizing, as well as the high school, Edgenuity. And the middle school is looking at just our core classes, math, ELA, science, and social studies, but they're also providing elective courses. And Mr. Welts is getting out information to you, and I will add it as an addition to our handbook of what those specific elective courses are. But I believe there's 10 electives, and they do look student-friendly and very interesting. So if a student is an honors student, they will be placed in one grade level higher, and they also, for ELA, have the option of taking on a course study novel. They also, honors students, have the elective choice of Chinese or German, so that's exciting. And then they'll also be using Imagine Learning as supplemental curriculum. I didn't mention this with elementary, but since they'll be utilizing all of the core curriculum that on-campus students are using, they will be charged the same standard textbook fees. Whereas in middle school and high school, the TBR fees will still apply, because that covers the device and all of the materials that go along with the device, but student fees and course fees will be eliminated. So just to clarify that for 6th through 12th grade students. High school also utilizing Edgenuity, and this will be their courses will be based on their graduation plan that they've already set with their school counselor. The high school takes an approach where students do 2 to 3 courses at a time, and then once they complete that, they take on the next. And the high school has found that they have more success when they do this approach, and it works really great for them. So same with middle school and high school, any mandated testing will have to be scheduled and done on campus. And one of the things that I'm really excited that our high school administrators are looking at is really trying to be accommodating to all of our families and provide different hybrid and flexible options. So if there are students that are virtual but want to experience Area 30 Career Center as well, or if they have AP courses or dual credit courses, that the counselors will work with them so that they can have a hybrid approach. And again, TBR only applies, not course or student fees. So virtual students, this question has come up a lot too, so I wanted to make sure that we addressed it tonight. But virtual students will have the access to the same supports and resources that on-campus students do. And so counselors, special education, even library books. So all of those will still be utilized and accessible for all students. Our librarian is working on doing scheduling read-alouds to do with virtual classrooms and setting up drop-off and pickup times for library books. And then any of the other special services, those will have to be scheduled during the physical school day, because we can't expect those teachers to meet in evenings or off-contract hours. And then finally, our technology support. So we've got a system in place If a student or parent is having trouble with login or technical issues with their device, they can reach out to their teacher first. If their teacher can't fix it, then they contact our support line, and if the device needs to be brought in, it can be brought to central office, and they'll get it and fix it, and within 1 business day, return that to you. And so we're working on it, making sure we have a very quick, efficient process for that, because we don't want kids to be without devices if they're virtually learning. One other thing I did want to mention, so if you enroll as a virtual student or an on-campus traditional student, you get 1 change. And so if you figure it out after week 1 or week 2 that this is not working for my child, you get 1 switch. We want to do that because we understand that things come up and we need to change, but we do want to limit to 1, just so that we can protect the workload of our teachers and the influx of changing students back and forth. So that's why we're trying to kind of protect that capacity. And then also, we are going to make sure that we provide tutoring this year for any student that needs it, after school tutoring, and virtual students, that includes them as well. And so they can arrange that with a tutor within their building. We'll have designated tutors within the building, and transportation would have to be provided for virtual students, but that option will be there. And so we understand that students can be behind or just still miss that face-to-face contact or need that extra teacher support, so they can still have that in after-school hours with a Greencastle teacher. So I believe that's it. Mr. Gibney, did I cover everything? Okay. So as I said, we're going to take this back to the committee in the morning, get their feedback and input, and then we'll publish it out to the community and put it on our website hopefully tomorrow afternoon.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Fritsch.
So it's the same as 6 through 12. If you couldn't hear his question, is 6 through 12 the same as far as being on screen the entire time? And I believe the answer is no. So I believe there will also be readings and things that occur offline. But that's why we have that code of conduct in place too, because we need the parents to verify that they were actually offline reading and not video gaming or whatever, so that we can account for those educational hours.
Yeah, I think that's going to help a lot of people.
Okay.
Well, Russell,
if you don't mind, we have 9A. I'll share that.
Exactly. They can come, once all of their assignments on there, they can literally spend 5 minutes downloading all of the work that they need, downloading the videos, and then uploading their assignments from yesterday or the previous day. Any time in between. for that time period, I believe, but we didn't discuss that. Right, absolutely, and I think we would take that on a case-to-case basis and make sure that we're accommodating everybody. I don't think that's a hard and fast rule, but it is just to protect our teachers from the workload, and because we're trying to build capacity for our virtual teachers, and then 2 days later get an influx of 10 more kids, and then they can't handle that. So we just want to be careful of that.
Thanks. Okay. Next on the agenda is the report from the superintendent.
Yeah, so I just, excuse me, have a few items just to kind of address this month. On our website, we've created the COVID-19 roadmap tab, and there you will find our reopening plan, and that is a live document with the change log. So as updates are made to that throughout the year, those changes will be reflected in real time for families to see. Also, our athletics reentry plan. More information about the virtual learning option, and of course, after our meeting tomorrow with the reopening committee, we will also post the virtual learning presentation or slideshow and handbook, so that way families can have that information at their fingertips to help inform decisions. And an item that we're continuing to develop is just the parent-student frequently asked question document. So really taking those questions shared by our stakeholders and addressing those the best we can. And again, that will be kind of a rolling document that builds over time. And so we will be meeting with the entire reopening committee tomorrow, and we'll be pushing out some building-specific protocols, specifically targeted based on what it looks like by our building, and using the GCSC reopening plan essentially as the framework. But implementation of that might look slightly different, at the high school level than it would at our intermediate or primary schools, just based on developmental age. And then also, obviously, we have to factor in just the physical layout of our facilities. So just know that these are moving documents, and we are keeping abreast of the situation as we move forwards. One other item, just reopening plan specific, is we have posted 2 additional nurse assistant positions. So we're looking for either, I believe the qualifications are CNA or LPN. And what this will allow us to do is have a medical professional in each of our buildings to help us through the COVID-19 pandemic. So if you know of anyone, please help get the good word out, and please have them contact Polly Shuey or myself. Just a couple of updates just with building and grounds. I finally made it through all of our school district facilities. Our staff has worked tirelessly to prepare for the return of staff and students. The buildings look beautiful. The grounds look amazing. So I would be remiss if I didn't thank those folks for helping to take care of that. Also, just to update on 2 summer projects, in particular the middle school gym floor. We have a projected finish date or completion date of August 5th for that. The hardwood floor is down. The new bleachers have been installed, and they are working on painting and striping the floor and then sealing it or staining it or putting the clear coat down on that. So that's going to be a nice thing or a nice addition here at Greencastle. And then the high school auxiliary gym, we've had a chiller out there, and the air conditioning hasn't been functioning for quite some time. But we're working with Piney Engineering, and that will be fixed in time for the return of staff and students, because we know that we're going to need some additional space. And so we need to make sure that that climate is comfortable, or more comfortable than not. Especially, it can get pretty warm in there if you have a lot of people. And then one other item that I would just like to bring to attention, and in looking at our board policies and our procedures is we have the ability to use a consent agenda at Greencastle Community Schools. And essentially what a consent agenda does, it allows one vote for routine matters, essentially one action to approve it, and it helps to take care of those routine items, just that, in a more timely manner. And these items are defined specifically in our board policy as minutes, bills for payment, hiring of personnel, resolutions that require annual adoption, and resignations and leaves. So essentially the board would be able to approve these things with one recommendation, a motion, a second, and a vote. And what this would allow us to do, or what I'm wanting to do, is I'm wanting to create a recognitions section at the beginning, or a recognitions agenda item at the beginning of our meeting, because we have a lot of really awesome and cool things here at Greencastle Community Schools, and we need to do a better job of highlighting those achievements. It can be of individual students through Students of the Month. It can be through, having a specific class come in and share what they've learned in their class. It can be a short demonstration from like the robotics club or anything like that. And so if we're able to essentially, approve those items in a consent agenda, we can create additional time to showcase those things. Now, I do want to also clarify that at any time, even with the consent agenda, all it takes is a board member to just simply ask to have an item removed from the consent agenda, and then it can be treated as a separate action item. So all of the information sharing will still be the same, and there's also that protection to remove an item and vote on it separately. This is the consent agenda is used by a lot of other school districts. We switched to it at Bloomfield School District, and I just think that it would help us do a better job of showcasing and highlighting a lot of the awesome things that we have here. That's all I have for Superintendent's report for this month.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so I'm losing track of days here, but I met with Mr. Weatherford and Mayor Dory. I think it was it's hard to believe, but it was last Friday. And so, yeah, that's something that they have some grant dollars, and we definitely want to explore. We had telehealth at Bloomfield also, and that was successful. So anything we can do to help our parents and our students and keep our kids safe, yeah.
And Susan, I have a question for you. You guys represent several school systems, and a lot of them use a consent agenda, right? It's right. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda would be old business, and we have no old business. So leading us to new business, first item is an approval request for an update to the 2021 academic calendar. Mr. Givney.
Yeah, and so it'll provide some clarification for Mr. Harvey and everyone else. I think it's important to understand that we've been working diligently throughout the course of the summer and working with our staff and our parents, and we also recognize it's an ever-changing situation. So a lot of time has been put into this. But we just really feel like with the updates, the additional information we're providing families with regards to the virtual learning option, that some additional time might be warranted for families to make the best decision for their students. We also obviously want to have some additional time to make sure that we are able to hire those 2 additional nurse assistants, just making sure that we have everything that we need to start the school year. And then obviously in being able to look at, once students register, make any adjustments to class rosters so that we can put our virtual teachers in place and train them. So I think the 1 week is reasonable, and I think it will allow us to do just that. It also keeps us pretty much in line with the other Putnam County school districts, because we also recognize that we don't want any students who attend Area 30 to fall behind, and so it keeps those things in line as well. So it would be my recommendation that the board approve approve moving the start date back 1 week. Just also to make sure everyone is aware, at this time I am not recommending any adjustments to our breaks or scheduled days off. We just need that additional time right now. We'll certainly work through GCTA and stakeholders just to should any other adjustments need to be made.
Perfect. Okay, so you're just recommending start a day, a week, a week long. Everything else, all other calendar days are the same.
Yeah, that's correct.
Right. Okay. Makes sense to me. Okay, we have a motion and a second to update the 2021 academic calendar. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Gibney. I think that's a great idea. Next item on the agenda is an approval request for Imagine Learning, the Imagine Learning 3-year contract.
Yeah, so this item is a clarification from the June 2020 board meeting. It was an update that was brought to my attention. The board didn't have the opportunity to see the full 3-year agreement that was included in your board packet this month. What was presented in June was a recommendation for the first payment of $60,000. However, the total agreement is for $120,000 $120,000 for all 3 years, which is 2 payments of $60,000. So we just wanted to bring that to your attention and really make sure that that was understood and clear. And with that, it is my recommendation that the board approve the 3-year contract with Imagine Learning.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve the 3-year contract with Imagine Learning? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is an approval request for the transitional kindergarten class proposal.
Yep, so this is essentially what we're looking at is a pilot program for this year. We recognize that with kindergarten we have students of a variety of ages, and this essentially would allow us to create a group that are kindergarten age, but might need some additional supports and things along the way. And so Dr. French has worked with the curriculum committee. They put a lot of time into this, and we just feel like it's another thing that's going to help our students be successful at a young age, and it's something that we hope to replicate over time. So this doesn't remove the kindergarten entrance requirements as far as having to be 5. Just to be clear with that, I don't want to offer up any confusion. So it's my recommendation that the board approve the transitional kindergarten class proposal.
So this essentially creates 2 kindergartens.
It's just one.
I mean, one that wouldn't necessarily be ready to be in full kindergarten. It's a little slower entry. Okay.
But some. And so significant screening is done at the beginning of the year. So if a student falls within that young time and benefit added time and growth, in the transitional kindergarten classroom. And that child will then have kindergarten for 2 years found that this is another program that's used and they've had great success with it too in the models that we're looking at. But we feel like this will be a really good program and we're really excited.
Okay. Now, is there ever a time, is there a provision at all for a child really progresses in their transitional program that they might move on up, prior semester and stuff? Okay.
I think it sounds like a great plan. Yeah. Okay, can I get a motion to approve the transitional kindergarten proposal? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Next on the agenda is an approval request for the 2020-2021 physical therapy services contract with Cornerstone Rehabilitation Center. Mr. Gibney.
Yep, so Mrs. Sullivan is recommending that we continue the contract for 2020-21 school year with Cornerstone Rehabilitation Center, and this group provides physical therapy services for our students who are in need per their IEPs. This is paid for through our federal grant, FY 2021. It's my recommendation that the board approve this request.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the physical therapy services contract. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is an approval request to accept the donation from Hassler's Trucking to Greencastle High School Athletics in the amount of $500. Mr. Gibney.
Yep, so it's anything over $500 requires board approval, and essentially they're joining our corporate sponsor program, and I would like to request that the board approve these funds for our athletic department.
Russell did. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Last item on the agenda is, under new business, is to approve the donation of $3,000 grant, or I don't know if it's a donation, but approve a $3,000 grant from the Putnam County Community Foundation.
Yep, so I'd like to thank Dr. French and whoever helped support her in this effort. Essentially, we put forth a proposal to help secure bottle filler drinking fountains for some of our schools, and that's something that we are working on and will continue to work on. And essentially, they approved our $3,000 in funds to help support that. So we definitely like to thank them for being good partners with Greencastle Community Schools, and I would like the board to accept those grant dollars so that we can put them to good use.
You have a motion and a second? Okay. We have a motion and a second to approve the $3,000 grant from Putnam County Community Foundation. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Last item on the agenda is other business. Does anyone have any other business?
Yeah, so the executive order really, Greencastle Community Schools are in our plan. We're already doing those things, or following or meeting those requirements. But one thing that we are doing is we're going to participate in Dr. McCormick's weekly webinar tomorrow. That executive order just came out, and we haven't necessarily received full guidance from IDOE. or School Board Association. So we're going to review that information. We're going to have conversations with the committee because we really want to make sure families understand the mask requirement. We also want them to understand what type of masks will be acceptable. So we will be sharing out additional information for all families, teachers, and stakeholders. You know, what's our discipline policy with masks? So we have to work with our committee, but we will definitely share that out with families.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't believe that we're going to be able to break it out by class period, hour within the school day.
Any other business? Okay, I guess for tonight only, we had kind of talked before some people came in, that we had moved comments from the audience on the recommendation or the suggestion from a couple of board members, having heard comments from some people thinking that they would like to see them at the beginning rather than at the end. Really makes no difference to me personally. I mean, it's, so I guess since not everyone was in the room, maybe for tonight only, we'll go ahead and allow not necessarily a question and answer session, but another section of public comments from the audience.
Could I also reiterate something? And I would also like to really share that if people have questions or concerns, I'd really like them to reach out to their school building administrators or teachers because we really want to be able to work through these items with our families. And the board meeting isn't necessarily the best place for that to take place. Certainly, by all means, we want to listen to your comments and concerns, but it oftentimes can often be difficult to answer them appropriately. Because if we don't have the information in front of us, we're not necessarily prepared to answer that. So I would like to encourage that good dialogue with teachers, with administrators, then also with myself.
Yes, that was very, very helpful. So are there any comments from the audience at this point? Mike, please. Please go to the mic.
I just have one question. I'm Wayne Lewis. Is it my understanding that this board, the school corporation, is coordinating schedules with the other 4 school corporations that participate in the Area 30 program? And since we moved our start date back 1 week, is that going to affect anything else going on with the other school corporations in relation to our start date?
Well, as Mr. Gibney said earlier, it puts us more in line with the other schools.
You're in line?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else?
Good evening again. My name is Angie Weeks. I've been in contact with several of you. I've also been in contact with several community members in our town. I want to thank you for listening to us and continuing to work together. I know that tomorrow's going to be a big meeting for many of you. I also know that my email has been blowing up from family members staff members, colleagues, my boss. I want to reach out as a community member and ask, what can our district do for our staff, for our leaders, in terms of mental health? I know we're all tired of hearing about uncharted territory, but this is a time truly where I believe a lot of my colleagues are asking themselves, because I hear it, how are we going to do this? I'm not asking for cheerleaders or extra bonus bucks to Hardee's or whatever, but I'm just thinking, how can we move forward to work together? Because I know that it's going to be hard. It's going to be extremely hard. And a lot of people are not willing to say that. And I would like you to open up your mind to that and think about together on the front lines. You know, we're not doctors or nurses. I'm not prepared for that. I've been tutoring this summer when I felt it was safe. And in a 2-hour period, I asked 14 times with 2 students, please put your mask back on. So I know it's going to be hard. I'm wondering, how can we as a team of educators and board members, how can we come together to educate this community that in order to move forward, we need their support as well as ours with this plan. So I know we have a lot to do, but I thank you for your time and look forward to working together some more.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, hearing no more comments, can I get a motion to adjourn? Okay, I have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you for coming, and be careful on your way home.